بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. So I was asked this question by that same person that I mentioned the question last time. So he asked a question about wife beating in Islam. So this is a sensitive topic, and obviously Islam is uh, bashed about this concept quite often by the non-Muslims. And it is a question that is difficult to answer, to be honest, but I'm going to give you my answer and my understanding about this concept. So, and there's no quick answer to this. Like, yes, in the Quran, the word فَضْرِبُوهُنْ is mentioned, which literally translates to beat them. Now, or punish them, right? Now, there are two ways to approach this. Now, a lot of people try to change the translation of this verse. I've seen a few videos of people, trying to change the translation. But I personally don't agree with changing the translation of a word, especially if it's not mentioned from the Sahaba radiallahu anhum ajma'in, and also the Tabi'een or Tabi' Tabi'een. Because then obviously then it's open-ended. Arabic is a very vast language, and then if we start changing the meanings of words, then the whole Quran is going to be changed, right? So I stick to the classical interpretation, but I look at it in the following way. Because the first thing, obviously, beating a wife is not part of Islam, because how is it incorporated? That's what I'm going to talk about. Because the Quran also says, لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ, that for you, right? For us, for example, for instance, is an example. The Prophet ﷺ's life is an example for us to lead our lives. And the Prophet ﷺ was one of the most humble people, one of the most soft-hearted people that has ever lived. He was the most soft-hearted person who has ever lived, ﷺ. And so he was very kind with his wives. There are instances that one of the al-Mu'mineen once broke a plate out of anger, and he did not even get upset on he used to be a very controlled person, right? He would not get angry suddenly like us, right? And so he's an example for us, and he never did that. So why is this mentioned in the Quran? So now I'm going to try to explain to you, the way I understand it. And I read this in a tafsir. I think the Al-Quran, it's a tafsir in Urdu, which is very good. And and obviously I've learned several philosophies of how do social punishments or social uh, uh, social phenomena, right, in Islam are dealt with, right? And so if you look at social phenomena that have strong implications, the Quran and Islam handle them with intensity. Like, for example, alcohol is handled very strongly in Islam. It's haram. It's prohibited very strictly. So, but at the same time, Islam has also there is a concept of gradualism in Islam, that you bring gradual changes at the social level, and this comes in the category of those social changes where a gradual change was made instead of an abrupt change. Now, if you make an abrupt change in society, then there is an abrupt response, which can cause resistance to the religion, because people are obviously used to their social lives, and Islam, when it goes in a social environment, it does not want to abruptly change things, because then there's a reaction and people resist the religion then. And so this falls in that category. Like, for example, even alcohol, obviously it was prohibited eventually, but its prohibition was done very gradually. And there were some companions who used to drink and then come to prayers also, because it's mentioned in the Quran, like ya ayyuhalladhina amanu la taqrabu as-salata wa antum sukara, that don't come close to prayers when you are in the state of drunkenness. So so even that was gradually implemented in society, right? And so there were things that were gradually implemented, but their prohibition did not come, because they gradually decayed, right, with time. And this is, in my view, one of those things, like slavery, for example. There are rulings in the Quran, still rulings in the Quran about slavery in the Hadith, but we don't implement those. Like, there's no Muslim would say, okay, let's go back to slavery and stuff because it's in the Quran. These are phenomena that gradually, that their decay was fed into the system, fed into Islam's social system, and then they eventually decayed, right? Because prohibiting them instantly could have caused a social reaction, and Islam minimizes the social radical social changes because, again, of the reaction. And this is, mentioned in the Hadith also. The Prophet ﷺ, the woman came and complained about men, and then the Prophet ﷺ completely prohibited wife beating, and then the men came and then started complaining that the women have rebelled now because we can't do anything. And so, because it was part of the social system, and so the Prophet ﷺ then gave a slight permission that you can do it slightly, but then anyone who does this is not a good person, is not the best of people. And so he condemned that action also at the same time, because again this was a very common social practice, even in Hollywood movies. Like, if just you can Google, so they're on YouTube. Like, wife spanking was very common. Although I haven't seen it in my society in Pakistan, and I was born in the Emirat, in the UAE. I never saw anyone doing it in my family. But like in the movies in those times, in the like 30s or 40s, this was like shown like as a common practice, and you can Google it and see it. And so wife beating was part of society. Anything that was part of society, Islam, especially like those things that were very sensitive, right, and abrupt changes to those systems would have caused a reaction that would have caused resistance to the religion. Islam basically laid the seed down for them to decay with time. And this and again, this is another this is the same answer goes for slavery also, that it happened with slavery also, that Islam placed its seed of its decay. But I'll talk about that in a separate video. So jazakallah for watching. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.